Hey, hello. Today marks the best day of the year. This is spring changeover season. So today's episode is going to be focusing on getting the tractor switched from being snow mode to mowing mode. Hang out with me today and check out what I'm going to get all done. Thanks.
Keep washing the tractor. I want it clean, Gianna.
Now the first thing I have to do to get this process going is I've got to get my trailer out of the garage. It's going to serve for a couple different purposes. I'm going to clean the garage while I have it out. In addition, my mower decks are up against the wall over here, so I've got to get those brought out. I'm going to service the mower decks. I've got a special treat for some of you grease gun fans. And we're going to service them up, show you a little bit of the differences between the BX deck and the G1800 deck, and maybe some of the similarities as well. The maintenance on those two decks are nearly identical. Hang out today, and I hope you enjoy. Please remember to hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, as well as hit that little bell to get notified when we have new videos. Thanks. Alright, so we're going to be using the Stihl BGA56. I've got a review on this leaf blower. Obviously, blowing out a garage isn't going to do it justice, but this is why I love this leaf blower. Battery powered, this thing is set all winter long. I had a hot battery and a charger, I slapped it in it. We're ready to go. Alright, so that doesn't look so bad. I've got enough area here to get on the decks. The trailer will have to come back in tonight, so got to make sure I get everything I want to get done completed so I can pull the trailer back in. So this is the RC54-G20. It's a 54-inch mowing deck that was for the G1800. There's a video out there. Here's a card for that video. Where I rebuilt this deck. It's just a bunch of pictures stitched together with some explanation. Now, this is the deck that I use to mow all my grass. I've got the BX deck over here. We'll look at it. I've mowed with it twice. It's a brand new deck. Probably this year I'll start mowing with it more, but last year we were doing so many tilling videos and everything else. It was just a pain to have it on, have it off, have it on, have it off. So I'm hoping to really use it more. One thing I will tell you, at the end of the season, I was mowing the corn stalks, I was doing random stuff. I started noticing that the center blade was stalling. I knew immediately what it could be, and it's my bolt was loose here. And I usually torque these, but apparently I didn't get a good torque on that one, or it came loose throughout the mowing. Never had it come loose before. But it did come loose, so we're going to be taking this off, obviously, to sharpen the blades and make sure that those Belleville washers are in good shape and that I can retorque it. So, the bolt looks okay. Definitely have a little bit of polishing on the blade, but a lot of that's from when I sharpened them last year. I usually try to scuff off any loose material so that I got a good contact surface. The hub in here looks fine. No heating apparent, so I don't think I did any damage. Belleville washers appear to be okay. No heat signs on those, so it must have came loose right at the end where it started slipping. There is a little bit of stringy material here. I don't think that would have caused it, but I'll clean these bolts up, clean the Belleville washers up, clean the blades when I sharpen them. You can see I've got some dings and dents in this one. Those are from rocks and sticks and stuff through some of our Huser Helper episodes, picking them up. So I'll dress those up with the flap wheel, and they'll be fine. Before we go on, maybe a question for the comments. What do you guys do as far as cleaning the underneath side of your deck? Do you clean it out? This one I hit it with a putty knife. That's about as much as I'm gonna do to it. I'm not gonna go out and power wash it and scrub all of that. It's dry, it's not gonna cause any damage that I know of, but what are your guys' opinions? So it's not the sharpest in the world. I didn't get every single nick out, but I got a lot of them out. And we would have started with something similar to this where you got some pretty good nicks in it. So yeah, I'm probably taking off more than I should, but you know, I like the looks of that. I think it'll hold a better edge. It won't be ripping the grass as bad. So as far as balancing goes, I maybe don't do as much balancing on the blades as I should, but we'll do that at the end when I'm finished with the initial grinding. I'm going to go ahead and show you this side because you just saw how boogered up it was. You can see I still got a little bit there, but I don't want to grind off another 1/8 of an inch of that blade just to take care of that one little nick. I think that looks okay. I'm going to clean the rest of these blades up so I can balance them the best I can with what I got. Alright, so that's not too bad. I got most of that build up off of it. Now what I do, this is the part that is probably not the most accurate way of doing it, but it's, I suppose at least I tried. Tell me what you think of my process. Looks like we're a little heavy on this side, so we need to grind off a little more on this one. I'd say that's about as balanced as I'm going to get. It might be slightly heavy on the side that I wasn't grinding, but I think we're pretty good. So I'm going to finish up doing these other 2 blades, and we'll do the install. Now for cleaning up the hardware, I'm just going to use a little bench grinder here with a wire wheel. Because what I want to make sure we have is good clean contacts. Because if we do have some material, we might end up in the same situation as I was just a little bit ago with things getting loose because there was some grass stuff that wore itself free once I started using it, causing it to get a little bit loose again. Alright, so I got all the blades sharpened and cleaned up. I've got all the hardware cleaned up. These surfaces here on the gearboxes or the spindles, they look pretty good. Some other things I like to check while I'm under here. How's that back anti-scalp wheel? I'll check the other scalp wheels as well. They're still good and tight. And all of them look good. And if we wanted to, now would be the time to go ahead and clean a little of that excessive grass off, but it's not terrible bad. Just looking the deck over, look for any cracks that you might see, anything like that. Alright, so let's go ahead and reinstall the blades. The cup of the blade goes up because that's where you get your lift. You're going to need 2 Belleville washers. You're going to need one of these center hubs. It goes through the Bellevilles, through the blade, and you're going to need a bolt. Put the blade on, align that center hub there, push it on all the way, and then thread your bolt. An important thing to note when installing the blades, I'm sure a lot of you all know this, but like right now I could torque that down and within a matter of minutes it would be loose because this has a shoulder that it has to go on. So make sure it's sitting on the shoulder of that center hub before you torque it in. If not, you're torquing against the blade and you're not going to get that tight like it's supposed to be. To torque them up, I'm just using a 1/2-inch breaker bar, and I'll give them a good 3 grunts. So I'm kind of going to do a side-by-side comparison between these two decks. Some of the key differences between the two decks. This one obviously has a steel discharge chute that can be left in the up position without having to use bungee straps, as well as the steel covers over the pulleys. I think that's maybe a loss of, I guess, a little bit of benefit of the older decks to the newer ones. Don't get me wrong, the plastic works okay. Just obviously don't want to step on the plastic. I've seen a lot of these decks where the pulley is worn a groove in it. So I guess I kind of wish Kubota would go back to those steel covers. I think that would make a huge benefit. And they don't have to be fancy. You know, just a bent piece of steel would be fine with a latch. Gearboxes, real similar design. The BX obviously drives from the back, where the G1800 drives from the front. Drive shaft driven. Gearbox on the BX is significantly shorter than on the G1800's gearbox. I'm sure that's to increase height, and we'll do that test on which one has better race height. Some of the differences, it's not really a quality of deck, it's just the design. The G1800 is actually only a partially carried deck. So these rear gauge wheels, that's how you set the mow height, by moving the pins up and down and adjusting those. Where the BX is 100% suspended by the tractor. There's benefits to both. So if one of these gauge wheels was to drop down in a little hole, you're going to lower that corner of the deck. But on the flip side, when you're going around on a side slope, by having a fully carried deck, the deck will tend to gouge on the lower side. And it's just you have to make sure that those anti-scalp wheels are set up exactly right, and it's still not going to be a fluid transition from one pass to the next. With this deck, it'll be 100% fluid. You won't be able to tell where one deck pass ended and the next one started, because you're going to be running on exactly the same ground on that next pass. So we'll do that in some of the mowing comparison videos. But outside of that, the general deck construction is almost identical. Same heavy gauge steel, same fully welded construction, and the belt and pulley setup is virtually identical, the way the tensioners work. So I didn't know. So the G1800 deck can be stored in an upright position without the fear of leaking any fluid out, mainly because the shaft comes out the top and there are no vents on this gearbox. The BX deck, however, has a vent, and when you have it stood up, that vent is to the bottom side. So Kubota, if you're watching, maybe future ideas, drill that vent in the top corner so that the deck can be stood up on its end for storage. Just something to keep in mind. Well, today I'm gonna be using a Lincoln 1882. It's a lithium powered, battery powered grease gun. I'm just using red tacky grease. This sure beats what I had in the past. This little mini Lincoln grease gun. It was a good, fine grease gun, but the little tubes just didn't last very long, and they were a pain to change. No bleed screw on this thing, and just made a mess every time. So super happy about this. My dad got this for me for Christmas, and we're going to be using it today on the decks, and then we'll be using it throughout the year for the rest of the mower. So gonna grab a rag and we're gonna start hitting the grease zerks. Alright, just like the BX decks, the The G1900 has U-joints that have to be greased here. And it's always, I would say, nearly critical to wipe off these, because these are a needle bearing in here. You have a hook on there. And we're going to give it, so get some grease to squirt out. Turn. As far as hours of mowing that I go between greasings, probably about every other mowing or every third mowing I'll grease the deck. And then this little slip joint, just take some of this excessive grease here and put on that. Coated good. Other spots of grease on this deck are the bearings under these covers for the outer spindles. They have a little hole here in this cover to access it. Now normally I would pull these covers off, or traditionally we would pull these covers off, but I added this kit. This actually came from Messick's. It was on their clearance list of parts because this deck is outdated. The newer G18 and 1900s did not use this. This is kind of an afterthought, and I'll go through the details of what that's for. But essentially they call them deck assist springs, and what it's designed to do, not necessarily assist the tractor on lifting the deck, but ensuring that some of that weight of the deck gets transferred back to the tractor to improve traction and flotation of the deck. When you get some pretty soft soil conditions, these rear gauge wheels tend to sink in pretty bad. So that's what they were for. The newer ones actually had separate brackets mounted to them. That guy ain't wanting to take grease. We're gonna have to work on that. Always important, if you have a Zerk that won't take grease, not to just say, well, I tried, because it can easily be something that's quick to resolve now but cause a problem in the future. So got to take a little. I see fresh grease that came out this top, so the Zerk is probably just getting bad. Now there's only 2 Zerks left. That's up back here on these little wheels. I'm pumped up. And that should be done on this deck. Now we're going to move over to the BX, go through the same process on it, and you'll see that the Zerks are nearly identical. Next we'll hit the gearboxes. Like I said, this BX deck had never been mowed before I bought it. I bought it a year ago in December from a guy that had a BX23S, and told me he got the tractor cheaper if he bought it with a mower deck, and he had no intention of using the mower deck. So he sold this deck to me for right at $1,000. I had to drive 2.5 hours to go get it, but essentially less than half the price of a new at the time, which was going around $2,200–2,300 for a new deck. And I got a brand new deck for that, so I was pretty happy. The original intent was to then turn around and sell the G1800 since I could do everything with one tractor. And that was going to happen last spring. I listed the G1800 on Facebook Marketplace, and I wanted a significant amount for the tractor, but it was mainly because I wasn't really that interested in selling it. I figured, well, if somebody wants to pay me this for it, I'll sell it. And then we started Huser Helpers. And so with Huser Helpers, the BX was busy all the time doing tilling projects and dirt projects. So ended up staying with the G1800, and I used this one a couple times last year just to see how I liked it, and the reality is I still prefer the G1800 for mowing. This one is not wanting to take grease either. I don't know if it has something to do with, doesn't feel like there's tension on the pivot pin. So we'll try to get it to take here in a second. I'm going to grease this new joint. There, it finally started to choke a little grease out. Even though it was loading the grease gun up significantly, I put it in low on the grease gun, and it finally pushed some out. So I don't know if it's just new and therefore very tight still. Spindle. Center spindle. So that should do all of the upper bearings. The only thing we have left are the wheel bearings, or the wheels, scalp wheels. So I'll hit those. So that should have it greased. Let's get this out of the way here. Alright, so for this gearbox, we got two plugs on the side here. The low one is the low, the high one is the high. The low one is also used for draining purposes. And so we're going to want to take this low one loose, and then we'll need that fuel cap off. This plug out, and I fully anticipate this being low. $75.40 or $75.140 gear oil, fully synthetic. This is what I've switched all my gearboxes over to. So I'm just gonna add oil slowly till I get some to come out that side port. My guess is the entire gearbox oil is drained out, or nearly all of it. That oil will come out. Now we'll go check that G1800's gearbox too, just to make sure there's no apparent oil leakage on it. but we're starting the mowing season, so it'd be good to go ahead and check it. Okay. So this gearbox is a little different design. It's just got a single plug on the side here for your fill level, and then there's a plug in the back for the drain. Not really a good fill hole other than this side port, so it's a bit of a mess. Oil's dripping out, so right at the full mark. As far as how often I change the oil, I changed this one when I rebuilt the deck. I would say every 250 hours of mowing would probably be a good time to change it, but I don't know, as long as it's full, you're probably okay, and you're using a good quality oil. Alright, so that should complete the mower deck maintenance. So the last thing I do want to talk about is, I guess, just wanted to show, you can obviously see there's tons and tons of orange paint, just a little bit of grass. I didn't even clean this thing. I used it literally twice last year and then took it off because we were doing tilling. So this deck is in pristine condition. The blades have 0 nicks in them. So I'm not even going to sharpen them. I'm just going to run it as is. Later, you'll see a mowing performance video where we compare these two different decks on their tractors and how well they do. So look forward to that video coming in probably the next month. And other than that, I'm going to be starting the next video where we actually install these on the tractor. So I want to say thanks again for checking out Huser Helpers. Hit that like button if you enjoyed the video. Please remember to subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, tell your friends about our videos and look forward to future videos. I'm going to start filming the next one, which is going to be getting the tractors ready for spring, and that video will be released probably in the next week. So stay tuned, and thanks, and have a great day. Bye.